said, looking up there to see where power can come from for these teams. Ivern, the man, has found himself, I should say, the tree on the list of bans throughout this tournament quite a bit here. Ken and Graves, not too different as well, and the Lulu expected.
So a lot of respect already towards Levi, as well as Stark, both champions that were played earlier on in the day. LYN is saying, no, you know what, we don't feel like playing against those for the time being. I wouldn't be surprised if Caitlyn gets taken off the board as well. You heard the analyst there talking much about how White Lotus as an individual, what sort of a composition would be great in order for him to shine? Well, how about to protect the AD carry comp, right? So those are going to be taken off the board, unavailable to them. Actually looks like Gigabyte Marines, they lost a bat.
It will happen.
It shouldn't happen.
Yeah, it does not seem like they turn to the rest. It doesn't seem, obviously we haven't heard anything, as we would have been made privy to information due to a certain situation. So sometimes it winds out, you don't have the time. Also could be a leave up to them to play a back and forth
it's
game.
all
what
the mind game,
it's
right?
The mind.
Like, you know, if we
they're
leave
firing mind bullets at each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're blanks, you never know, but you gotta dodge it. You gotta be careful. Looks like it is gonna be a LYN pickup here to start things off. We'll see how LYN responds with 1-2.
Now this is great for someone like Levi, who is very much playing around, who likes to play around their mid laner Optimus. He's a jungler that can really get in your face. You can look to make a lot of early plays, but you now want to pad that up with a powerful mid laner who can push, who has sort of priority. So I'm still looking at champions like Syndra, who is still available on the board. Champions like Orianna are also up and available. And these sort of champs, you can very readily blind pick, given as to how many positive matchups that they do have.
And it was just forward to me. Gigabyte did forget a ban there. Didn't seem like the comms made it seem as if they were trying to strategize around what LYN would have. So with the Kazakhs picked up, it is going to be a bit of initiation in the Ashe pickup for White Lotus. So actually kind of putting him in a utility role this game to say, we'll carry from around the map, but also use White Lotus's power to engage.
Well, even if he does play utility, we saw his Ashe earlier on the day. It doesn't look like that's really what his role on the team. So I think that they are still sticking to comfort. Meanwhile, if you're the Gigabyte Marines right now, you want to try and match that powerful bottom lane. Varus is still up and available, so you could just pick a pretty safe rotation with the Zyra and the Varus down the bottom half of the map. You could also go for the Caitlyn as well if you want a little bit more pushing power. Absolutely. You don't have the same sort of protection for that AD carry that we have seen over the last 2 days.
And there's, I feel a lot of times when we see the teams here in the play-ins kind of draft a composition, it's very coordinated against what they're seeing, right? You get the Ashe to the Zyra because if the arrow hits, you want to be able to disengage there. Seems like a lot more you'll get teams to can kind of consider more what the other team is picking instead of come in with an idea and try to run that all the way through. It's been interesting to see how they mold their comps.
You spoke about disengage. What's more than that when to add Brag to the list, right? So when you have the primary engage tool from what we're seeing so far of LYN being that Ashe arrow, it becomes very easy for the side of Gigabyte Marines to then split Lyon Gaming up in this big 5v5. So you can already see that Gigabyte Marines, they're already working towards building this team fight composition. They're looking towards that mid and late game, but they are already getting themselves pretty powerful lanes. They're going to have strong pushing power up in the top lane into the Shen, and they're going to have a powerful bottom lane with the Zyra too.
I was going to say, so many of the picks left up, as with one being left unbanned. And then some of the other high tier bans still going, or picks going through. Shen gets locked in the first tier here. And we'll see actually what they try to do for LYN, going for a mid laner and their top, or I should say support, to end things out here. Maybe a flex for them in the way they look at it.
Interesting that Lucian was actually the champion that was banned away from Slay. I do know that this is a champion that he has brought out in the past. However, when thinking about getting yourself a powerful bottom lane, like sure, Lucian can fit into that, but I feel like the Varus is a much safer bottom laner that Slay is more inclined to go towards, especially when they've already built themselves a pretty powerful team fighting composition. Varus would just slot very nicely into that lineup. So I feel a smart ban right now for LYN would be to take that Varus off the board.
9 seconds for LYN. Discussing back and forth. It actually is going to be that Ziggs. The respect for Slay, as well as what could be coming into the mid lane if they were to go back and forth. That's pretty good. A lot of AP, so it probably wouldn't be Slays.
Well, no, actually, that was what he brought out earlier on in the day. They had very potent sieging with the bottom lane. They were able to actually get a fair number of kills. They traded pretty effectively with the Ziggs Lulu bottom lane that they were able to run a line and saying, you know what, like we're tired of these new and interesting picks. Like, can we just play normal stuff? We know how to deal with that, right?
We had a long flight. Come on. All right, where are we going here? It's going to be the Karma ban out, so they do realize that a support could go that mid or bot here, so they're kind of taking out 2 for Lyon.
I feel like Lulu would be a pretty safe pick here because we talked about playing around White Lotus. Oh yeah, Lulu's banned off the board.
It would be a safe. I don't disagree with you.
It would be a good pick, right? But other options available to them. They could go for something like the Nami. You would lose out on the push, but you'd have a little bit more sustain to do with the poke.
They take the dive.
Oh, they are going to do it. So they have a fair amount of disengage themselves. Right now, they're looking... with the Shen, it's going to be difficult to make use of the level 6 spike down the bottom lane. But once Ashe hits level 6 as well, then you can look to try and force some of those plays, especially with the bubble follow-up too.
How will they ride the wave on the side of Gigabyte Marines? The Varus has been in the back of their minds, as it has yours, Vedius. I believe they lock it in. And now looking for what to lock in here. Archie throwing something in the mid lane. What will they have? This could even be crazy. I mean, we saw that Gragas support in the NALCS, so...
Yeah, it could be Gragas mid, man. You never know with these teams.
Pyra anywhere.
I feel like Syndra could be a pretty safe mid laner.
Absolutely.
They could also go for the Orianna if they really want to hard commit for that team fighting style, but I feel like Optimus may very well go for more of a split pushing style champion. It is something that he prefers more, and when you're thinking of this mid jungle synergy as well, if he's playing more of a side lane assassin, then you're better set up for Levy if he's able to get you a couple of early kills.
True. So it looks like the Ahri does get locked in for Optimus. He'll be dashing around. Seems like they do have a little single target focus, as well as we don't want that disengage on the side of GAM. The gamer Gigabyte Marines here. And it's going to be an Orianna lock-in. A bit interesting. Obviously a good champion to kind of round out a composition with, but the fact that it synergizes with the composition is another story.
I think that's just a very odd pick. Not only are you not going to be able to send the Ahri off onto a side lane to match the Ahri, but also typically Ahri's considered a pretty good matchup into the Orianna anyway, right?
Absolutely.
So I find it odd that they would choose to go for something like that. I think that something like a Cassio or a Syndra would have been a slightly safer pick into Optimus's Ahri. Regardless, they're going to stick with it. They will have a potent mid-game spike. We're looking very much towards the 2 to 3 item. But what I'm expecting from Gigabyte Marines is, again, playing very much around the mid lane. They have pushing lanes in both bot and top, and so Gigabyte should have the presence during the early game to set them up nicely for their potent team fighting in the mid game.
That's what I was thinking. Presence, use this hawk shot, get some vision, allow Odie to do some work around the jungle. And hopefully the shockwaves hit. As you said about the Orianna pick, it's always kind of an interesting thing to me when you play against something like a LeBlanc, like an Ahri in mid with an Ori, because in the beginning you tell yourself, ball's on me, I can do some command moves to get some damage, but careful with the shockwave. As that gets later and later in the game, if things have been hitting, you then kind of throw that to the wayside. And then you throw the shockwave at the one she's ready to Spirit Rush. The next one she's ready to Spirit Rush, and that's why that becomes such a difficult laning phase, and then into the mid phase. We'll see how Seiya plays it. Had a good echo game earlier. Ahri for Optimus. These two coming out 1-1 as you see on the top of your screen, and we're going to see how they fare coming in to the next game of the day. Like you said, Gigabyte Marines with a missed ban coming out. Didn't seem like a strategy thing, but it didn't seem like it affected much of what they wanted to put together either.
It doesn't seem like it, but for the time being, we have 2 very interesting compositions, a little bit different from the styles that these teams are typically used to. But now we get to determine which team will be able to net themselves at the top of Group B.
As I said, Seiya's echo earlier had a lot of the action brought to him, as we already have a little something going on the screen. So we'll have to see again, back to that, if Seiya gets more action to the mid lane. He was almost gifted a lot of those kills as the team played around the tempered engage very well. Gigabyte Marines coming off their win.
So the logic behind the early level 1 play from Lyon was that they're expecting Archie to try and move up deep in towards the bottom lane to start getting those the little plants out, the passive, to start, you know, growing yourself a little back garden down there. You know, you want to try and get things going early on so that you get enough sunlight to grow the plants. And then once you've gained that control, then it becomes easier to get that early push. So Lyon were trying to preempt that, trying to punish that. But unfortunately for them, Gigabyte Marines read the play and they didn't fall for the level 1 trap.
Very nicely done, and it looks like it's just going to be a line of scrimmage after that. Even less going in. We see this deep ward here just behind Raptors being placed. For now, it's just going to be that vision. I believe they've denied pretty much anything coming in on the side of Raptors towards the bot. Usual help for Odie in the jungle, and everybody's going to pan out on this one. A little aggression from White Lotus and Genthix to start off, but they haven't tacked on too much damage.
So both junglers starting on their Raptors. Very common start after a couple of the experience changes, or the health changes rather, on Raptors. Some junglers have been taking alternative paths, but it's still the most optimal one to take if you possibly can, given it does give you that early level 2, and it makes it much easier for you to set up those early kind of ganks. So pretty standard so far from the early junglers, but the fact that we have the LYN starting on the bot side and Kazik starting on the top means that they can still both very easily go towards the mid lane, which is very much what we're expecting.
Yep, exactly. Towards the mid lane, plus all that information in the early, who gets the lane late, you're going to tell where the jungler is, where they're starting, what their path's going to be. So with that knowledge, it'll be interesting how they start. If they actually say, I think he's going to go mid, let's get in the jungle beforehand. If somebody can get the push in, that would most likely come from the Ahri, or he's not a huge pusher early, so we'll see if they can actually get that lane up from Optimus.
But it'll be interesting to watch how they actually set up that mid lane, right? Because as you rightly said, Ahri's not the strongest early pusher, but neither is Orianna at level 1, right? So you've literally got two mid laners
just auto your face
wasting all of their mana to push as fast as they can to give their jungler a little bit of more control.
And maybe actually we see those guys going at it, right? And the junglers leave them to be, let them blow a few summoners and then come to play. Going for an audio issue right now as we're waiting on for Gigabyte to get that fixed up, but I'm sure they can still hear the audio of the fans in the crowd. It's been absolutely amazing there. I, myself, a little sad we do this from here, but we get to go soon, so it's going to be an amazing event to have the feeling the players are getting right now.
The fans are always very passionate, very loud. And even though the Brazilian representatives from yesterday finished 2-1, they're still enthusiastic towards all the other teams here participating in the play-ins. And then we have had some pretty exciting games today. Bloodbaths getting like 20 kills overall in like 15 minutes of a game.
They just keep going. It's like going through the batting order, right? You get back up, you find somebody else to take down, and then you do it again.
And I love what you said when we were chatting earlier, Riv, where it was very much like, they're warmed up now, so we can expect more fighting.
We can expect
like, they're not going to be
more.
nervous anymore. They won't be a little bit hesitant to pull the trigger. This time they're going to be like, let's go, let's go. So that's what I'm hoping to see, especially from a team like Lyon, who back during the international wildcard qualifiers were effectively famous for their mechanical prowess, for being individually so strong that they would just straight up dumpster their opponents. And the Gigabyte Marines domestically, they've also been pretty dominant. So you've got two teams who, within their own regions, have really been a cut above everyone else that's been competing with them. And so now they finally get to clash against each other, and we get to see who has the edge in this particular matchup.
There is something about that, a team that kind of can just continue to pressure fights. There may be some mistakes here and there, but the audacity they have as they go for it wears on the other team. It's an incredibly risky style of play because losing fights loses you the game very fast. But it's always amazing, like to watch an LMQ or a team like that just continuously, oh, Dragon's up again? Dragon's still up. We lost that fight. Well, let's go back for it kind of stuff. It's just so much fun to watch. And like you said, they're warmed up from before. Let's do it. Let's get some of those fights in here. Gonna go in. They're checking for the audio right now, so we may be in just a few seconds to get this game underway. Game 4 of the day. 5 and 6 still to come from these teams. And we will have to see if we can get another 3-0 coming out of the group. Supermassive, even though they had kind of a back and forth yesterday, at the end we're just surging. And if one of those teams can find it here, we definitely kind of put a light on them out of the group, because there really isn't one yet.
From the play that we've seen so far, Supermassive seem to be a slight cut above the rest of the talent. However, I do think that for a lot of teams in Group B, it was like the first game of the day. Teams are still figuring out like the tournament meta. People are getting used to playing on
Getting
stage.
all your bans in.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, there are a lot of other factors that contribute, and I feel like, as we rightly said, throughout the day, teams do get a little bit better at adapting and dealing with it. And now that we are back into game, let's talk about when the action's really going to kick off. And I'm very much looking towards that level 6 mark for both the top lane and the bottom lane. Now, commonly, teams will move away from that Shen lane. So what we're likely to see, or what you'd expect to see, is Slay and Archie. While they'll have a lot of push, they'll have a lot of pressure, they may very well, around when Shen gets level 6, just leave bottom lane and move up top, because they don't want to run the risk of this Shen TPing down bottom, an Ashe arrow hitting you in the face, Oddie coming out of the bush, and then all of a sudden snowballing that, what should have been a winning lane.
So is that imperative for them now to reach 6? Because we just saw 2-2 to their 1s. They're only a slight bit behind, but are they pushed out early, or do they have to weather the storm if White Lotus and Gentic hit 6? early.
Well, for the time being, very early levels, White Lotus and Genthix do have the slight edge because the Nami and Ashe trade very effectively, but now that Archie and Slay have gotten a few levels under the belt, especially around the level 3 mark, that is where pressure starts to turn on. Speaking of pressure.
Slowly, you see the fog of war play out there. Optimus not really having any idea. He's got one right below him. Nice ward, too, as well, the Sea Raptors. Usually you see that one go in the brush, but he wants a bit more vision deeper as he goes for Scuttle. They're going to have bottom side of the map pushed up right now in the bot side lane, so let's see where they go with this one. May just be for a little bit of Scuttle love.
So White Lotus and Genthix using this early power that they have to assert dominance over the lane, and LYN, they have compensated for this early vision around the river to complement this bottom lane to make sure that there's no real threat from Levi trying to make those early plays, but he's doing exactly the opposite on the top half of the map. It would be very, very risky to try and go for a dive early on into Dural, but he will read the play from Levi.
Oh, there's a nice ward. I was going to say fantastic wards here by LYN, all the way around, circling Dragon down into Try, and maybe a few on the map from Gigabyte Marines here. It's all only good if you use it, right?
Right, yeah.
They're staying safe with it early game. That can still play to the advantage. But right now, the way that LYN's placing, the way that Odie's moving here, it looks like they want to get something out of this and find Levi in the jungle.
It's impressive that White Lotus has already accrued such a massive CS discrepancy so early on into the game. Like, it takes a lot of confidence to play with this much bravado so early on into the game, especially when you know that Levi is typically known for being this early game jungler, especially on a LYN who always looking for you to overextend, looking to try and punish that kind of aggression.
And look at this, bot side doesn't have anything top, so he's actually going to be looking for those Krugs if he hasn't timed it out yet. And it's going to be pushed up in the bot lane. So he's got so many things to think about right now. Is Seiya pushing in mid? Are they getting pushed in bot? Do they need help? We'll see how Levi does this.
Well, he is posturing around the middle lane. But Seiya, he's playing super defensively. He's very aware of the tendency of Levi. And he's going to show a bit of respect towards his opponent jungler.
Just flashing the shield. It's all right. The authority is in this lane. A move up here from White Lotus and Genthix. They're saying, it's a little scary. We lost that Scuttle, so we want to get vision. They're actually very on top of vision. Impressive so far. Easy to remember in the first few minutes of the game is you're like, hey, things are going our way. We'll have to see if they can keep it up, though.
Now, one thing that I love to do over in EU is look at Ahri builds, largely because a lot of Ahris love to rush Abyssal, and it really upsets me, Riv. It makes me really sad.
She's got a ring.
Yes, that's good, and she's also working towards the Lost Chapter. Oh, we don't have time for that.
Oh, a flash through from Odie. Actually, a flash as well, Levi. You see Odie not too happy with that one. A little distraught on his screen, but has the idea of where the jungler is, and he's actually been planning that. Maybe that's why I got to him so much, because he's like, I have been tracking you forever. Comes up short.
Odie asserting his dominance in the early game, demonstrating that this bug also has a bit of a bite. And now here, look, the level 6 mark in the bottom lane, though.
Ooh, Slay, low. Evan Flow comes out, they get a nice heal, but coming out, no summoners blown on that. Just a face-to-face with not even minions there as the wave was cleared out. Seems like they get the Marines to stay. Rather let them back.
That was actually a really good ward from Genthix as well, because that'll delay this back from Gigabyte Marines, and they want to go back and they want to make this map moving up to the top side of the map to avoid this level 6 from the Shen. So they're going to stick around for another wave, and this could be a big gamble. But look at the positioning of Optimus. He's ready for the possible gank.
Chiral's also slowly in and out of lane, got himself a ward to play safe, but can be bumped by Stark out of that TP or his ultimate. TP is down, so it will be that stand united. If there's a play, flash forward for the grasping root. That was against full health. I don't know if they're taking the fight overall.
I love the aggression, though. The fact that Archie's just diving in and be like, I don't need mana, I don't need health. I've got damage behind me. And he just goes straight in for it in the 2 versus 2. He does miss it. Now the flash is down. Let's see if LYN can punish it.
Is the exhaust there? I mean, that was the saving grace. Archie was ready to say, I can take a few hits with exhaust on, but he still has it up. May come into a play if they get dove. And they are going to have the time to back. Levi is hovering bot side here as Krugs come back up with Archie. So
now the advantage that the Gigabyte Marines do have, hang on a second, as we do see Odie getting spotted out.
This is getting pretty hairy here. Odie's trying to do as much as he can. And then Levi's finding him just at the last second or on his coattails to get out of there.
Now the irony of this is that 8 minutes into the game, No one's died, so a bit of a slow game so far compared to the other games that we've seen today.
Interestingly enough.
Yes, but coming back to this point earlier, so Stark, he actually has constant push over the Shen.
Yeah.
He's always going to force him underneath this tower. So every time Giral wants to try and look for this level 6 play, his tower is actually is very vulnerable to being taken down, or at least taking a lot of damage, especially seeing as he's always having to deal with all these minion waves hitting his tower, and the fact that Stark will be primed and ready to just start knocking down that structure.
Absolutely. It was almost helped in the beginning by Adi just at the start. We saw Giral come down to ward. Levi was up there, so he had to kind of pull that pressure off. And then Levi's been working on anything down here that Adi's been doing. So each jungler pulling each other back and forth at the start of this game. Blue buff's now going to go over to Optimus in that mid lane. Seiya should get the same thing as Adi has done with his red buff.
Now with Mountain Drake being the first dragon on the board, the fact that White Lotus have so much pressure down on the bottom lane means that this could be an early objective that LYN look to try and prioritize. I think they'll be waiting for Seiya to pick up his first item, which should be based on his itemization, the Morellonomicon. So once he's got that under his belt, he's going to be feeling a little bit more knowledgeable and insightful about being able to force these kind of fights.
Look at my book. I'll show you what it says inside. Get closer. You see Vampiric Scepter on White Lotus. Looks like he's just going to farm himself up nice and big as he goes for the boots first. Keeping that attack speed up. Under the turret's not going to be a problem. They're actually nice and safe in the bot lane. This gives Adi more time to do things. He's still going to head down there, though. Get that blue buff over for Seiya. But now Levi, top side. They're going to try to get a kill here on Giral. First blood possibly, or like you said, the wave's been pushed up. The damage they've been looking for on that turret.
It's always a gamble trying to dive a Shen, though. You have the Spirit's Refuge to mitigate a lot of the damage. You also have the Taunt. And if two members get torn under tower, then nobody does any damage, but the tower certainly does. So it's always a gamble that you have to be very mindful of. So I think that it was more of just a possible respect thing coming out from Levi. He didn't really see any other opportunities on the map.
In the end, you get the kill on Adi.
Exactly. So right now, though, we see Adi, he's actually hanging around the bottom lane himself. Now look at all these level 6 marks. Ultimates are now being primed and ready. This is what I want to see from LYN. Let's see what proactivity you can make. Remember, Archie, he has no flash.
Yep.
You have a Shen ready and waiting to dive in, force a play down in the bottom half of the map. So this is what I want to see from LYN now. Let's see if they can make anything happen at the 10-minute mark. Gigabyte
Marines have taken control of their jungle just behind that dragon pit once again. So this could be scary from LYN if they go a little too deep, a little too long. 4 members are here, so it's definitely a party on the bot side and should be a fast in and out. But things can still get messy.
I love the fact that White Lotus is freezing this wave right here, forcing Slay to burn all of his mana just to reach the farm. But it's also Gigabyte Marines saying, we are too scared to move up. We do not have any control over the river.
Exactly.
You can see how hard Adi has been working throughout this entire early game to just maintain control around this dragon, to make things difficult for the bottom lane of the Gigabyte Marines.
Well, he's hoping he can get something soon. Well, it has been Raptors and Krugs for Levi. He is trying to farm himself up to items. They're a bit even right now, because he has armor kind of to boot in his inventory. Optimus with help mid. It's a bit of that jungle pressure we actually haven't seen too much of what we were looking for.
But also a lot of respect, I feel, coming out from Seiya.
Yeah.
He's very much aware of the style that Levi likes to play, and he's also very mindful of the fact that this isn't Ahri, now level 9, very good at finding these picks and being able to dash on top of your face. So I think just very smart awareness from Seiya. He is praised as being the strongest, not just mid laner, but player overall in Latin North America. So he does have a lot of praise, and I feel like that so far he has been demonstrating that in this tournament.
Has the matchup versus Ahri, not doing too bad. That could actually get pretty scary even right now with just one gank. Summoner's up in the mid lane. That is actually an exhaust for Optimus. Interestingly enough, if he gets dove on from maybe a J-Roll and then an Adi.
Interesting that you would actually choose to go for the exhaust. Perhaps his intention is that when he dives onto the backline, I mean, it will guarantee that he'll win out on the trades.
Yeah,
but it does mitigate a little bit of your burst. You know, you lose out on the split pushing power that you would get from necessarily an Ignite. But when thinking about summoner spells to run, TP isn't really optimal. It's not something that you can use as effectively on a champion like an Ahri. So going for something like an exhaust, it just has more uses, right? It has more variation than something like an Ignite does.
Possibly get a huge hit on that shockwave, and then even Adi coming in. So from Archie and Optimus, they really could shut down a lot of damage once we get to this fight phase. 400, just about 500 gold here for LYN over Gigabyte Marines as it continues to tick up at a slow clip. We almost have those finished Blade of the Rune Kings down for our AD carry. Still 123 to 93, our biggest discrepancy in the game, with a little love towards the mid lane now, 3v2 situation. And a big rotation actually as well for Marines through the backside of their jungle that never made it. It would have been a hell of a fight.
That was a very odd TP from the Gigabyte Marines, because now they're going to lose a lot of pressure up top. Giral has his ultimate, which Stark will not be able to follow on. With the Dragon now being started for Levy, this will be a very difficult situation for Gigabyte Marines. I feel like Lions, they want to try and force a fight right now.
If they know, Gragas just walked back topside. They're not going to have much.
That's it.
Flashes in, gets the kill. That's going to be the tidal wave. Levy goes down. That's first blood as well. And Adi comes up faster. Giral didn't even have to come all the way down. Walks back to his lane and won't lose anything either.
And this is the risk that you run trying to go for that Dragon. They made a play happen in mid lane. Gigabyte Marines thought that, hey, if we force Saya back, we can just quickly transition over to this big objective, but they don't get the pressure that they want. The TP does not work out for Stark, and it's just an easy arrow into follow-up, into steal from LYN, nailing themselves not only first blood, but also the first Dragon of the game.
Work cut out for him. Adi has been over Levi all game long. Optimus, I don't know if he wants to do this. He's not going to see Orion on the backside. Shockwave is still there. Puts it in the brush, but not able to pull the trigger. So Optimus stops that. Slay is going to pick up the red buff. Goes over. Levi's not able to get his own jungle. Everybody else does. We'll see this one more time. Ult to flash.
That was actually a beautiful smite from Adi. You can see that Levi was just about to get that Dragon down. His Q was primed. He was ready to pick up that objective. Unfortunately for him, he was not quite fast enough on the trigger, and Adi was able to successfully take that away. Meanwhile, they went for an invade, and Gigabyte Marines, the aim was just a little bit off. They weren't quite able to land either the charm or the ultimate from Varus, excuse me, and it will result in no red buff being stolen away, but a lot of ultimates used. So now, LYN, they have a bit of a window with which they can play around if they want to try and force something.
Impressive they've kept the lanes the way they are for now. They haven't really taken too much down. They're saying, you know what, Slay and Archie, we're getting this lane good. It's allowing Adi to do whatever he wants around the map. Let's take it down slow, it seems like, right?
But Riv, that's not what I was promised.
That's right.
We're here at the play-ins. Lyon Gaming, they were in one crazy bloodbath earlier in the morning, and I was expecting like, oh, you know, they're all warmed up, they're ready, they're good to go. Maybe they'll fight more. Maybe they'll try and make more plays. They have Ashe. They have a Shen. They can do stuff, Riv.
Have we seen an arrow?
We've seen one arrow.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I want to see more. Like, I feel like I've been betrayed.
It's all right. We have 2 more games after this.
We've also got plenty more game left.
I hope to promise you at least 1 more arrow in this game. White Lotus sure will. As they take down the bot turret, that's going to mean the arrow chances go up even more. And the expectancy of Gigabyte Marines goes down as they start to invade here. There's the arrow going up across Stark, just dodges that over his shoulder. And an invade after bot went down. Maybe they thought the focus was a different place. Levi goes into a very dangerous spot.
A few questionable decisions from Levi. Not only did he go for the Drake alone, but he's also invading without any real support from the rest of his team. It was so much easier for Saya to be able to collapse when he was spotted out of position. Giral also ultimated in, and now LYN, they have priority over this mid lane tower, and they're going to gain even more control over the map.
Interesting choice. Lyon sends the AD and bot back down to the bot lane. It seems like they're going to get some more kills. This time, actually, they're taking the kills. Adi gets taken down. It will be good farm for White Lotus as he meets the minion wave there, but it will slow down their movement across the map as they've been stopped in mid as well.
And this is exactly what Gigabyte Marines need. They've
Yeah,
been under a lot of pressure down in the bottom lane. The fact that Adi, he just straight up hands over a kill to Slay, as well as getting themselves a tower in the top lane, will mean that the Gigabyte Marines do not fall under any serious gold deficit. Now, looking at the play, I feel like that Adi, he wanted to try and get a collapse down onto Slay, but his AD carry is too far away to really effectively follow up. The Ashe Arrow ultimate wasn't even there, and I just think that that was Adi just being too overzealous. He was a little bit too eager to try and make that play happen.
Everything has felt good for him, right? I mean, you just flash smited the dragon away. You can do anything. You can do anything.
He believed that he could fly, and instead he was in fact shot down from the sky.
Partially. If they have a fly swatter, you're not going too far. 2-1, 18 minutes in as we're coming up on 20 minutes. That lead is somewhat shrinking between Slay and White Lotus. Obviously, it's not going to mean as much as we get more in golden items, but that has not been used. They really just pushed the lane in and did not find much. The kill, however, going over to Gigabyte Marines did go on to Archie. So it almost plays well for Lyon there.
That's a very good point. We all know that supports are the true carries of the game, so
I wasn't going to say it.
So giving a bit of extra gold over to him is definitely not a bad thing. But the big difference right now is the fact that Gigabyte Marines, they did lose that tower down in the bottom lane, but they were still able to trade it back up top. So in terms of overall map control, they're still in a good position. But now we need to start seeing the rest of the map start to open up. Lyon, they got a chunk of damage down onto that tier 1 earlier on after Levi ended up losing his life in the top half of Lyon's jungle. So I feel like that should be the next big point of contention. You should move, you could move Gerald down to the bottom half of the map if you want to add a little bit more pressure towards the top side. However, with the dragon spawning in about 50 seconds, it would be better off to send Saya down to the bottom side of the map. You still have the tower for a bit of safety for that Orianna who doesn't have the ability escapes, and then Gerald can still join the fray the moment that objective becomes available.
It's like that one moment we can get Saya off on the side as an Orianna. Just farm away. This is great. Doesn't have to be the split push play. And we still have you for the fight. They take down mid. Good for Lyon Gaming. Their mid's also hurt up, so expect Gigabyte Marines to come back very fast and grab up their own gold. This is what I actually have liked about MSI play-ins here is when these turrets start to fall, it usually happens for both teams, or one team goes all the way down to the Nexus, right? But when it happens for both teams, that's that influx of gold. That means more fights, more invades, more vision, so people can go crazy. We see one right there, but everybody gets out with their life on that one.
Gigabyte Marines, not as effective as they probably would have liked with these skill shots. It's the second time now. Slay's ultimate didn't quite hit the mark. Regardless, it will result in an advantage gained for Lyon Gaming. They've now forced 2 members back. Yeah. Their eyes are on this Bat and Drake, and this will likely be their second of the game.
Not too tough of a smite on that one for Adi. A Mountain Drake as well, like you said here. So Gigabyte Marines are going to try to do what they can to get this Rift Herald. It looks like Stark's going to come down, bop that for himself, so he can have that for an extended period of time on the top side and say, hey, I'm going to add a little bit of my own pressure now. Ooh. Good
efficiency.
Time.
That is good prime
timing.
Efficiency. Just before the Rift Herald ended up dropping.
Pros take notice.
So now the map is a little bit more open. We actually get to see a replay of an exchange happening up top. Did we miss a kill?
Ooh.
No.
Flash.
I'm not entirely sure why we got a replay of that.
And then the barrel. Those are two big things. Barrel's almost going to be up, so you can see how much time has kind of elapsed between that. Still have quite a bit, almost a quarter off of the flash. Or quite a bit to go, I should say. What are we looking at around the board? Quicksilver stash for Adi, so he can get in and out. A little afraid of a charm or a lockup there as he does this, so that spells to me I still want to go in hard.
Oh, yeah.
And he's waiting for Gerald to have that stand united on him.
That's for sure. Meanwhile, it looks like, let's say, it's going for a second item, Luden's Echo as well, so we'll definitely give him a bit of an early spike. Fascinating that Optimus instead decided, rather than the Morellonomicon, to go for more of a burst build. You do get a bit of added mobility. The cooldown reduction is also pretty valuable, but it really just adds to your ability to assassinate those key targets. And I think his eyes are definitely on White Lotus. He's very aware that he doesn't just have an AD carry to kill, but he's got to get through that heal. He's got to get through the Gerald ultimate too. So adding a bit of burst to his belt will certainly add when trying to shut down those carries.
Yep. Mid lane still low. Lions using this as their bait. If they can pinch the team of Gigabyte Marines in on that mid lane. We've got the top-down swap. Giral and Stark now in the bot lane, farming it up together. Dragon has quite a bit of time, so this roam here from Stark means he wants some inside vision for the team. Let's see if they can make some plays in one of these lanes.
So the difficulty that Lyon has right now is they want to be playing around that tier 1 in the top side, but Gigabyte Marines have full control around the river. So if you're Lyon, the standard play is actually to start pushing up mid, move in towards the river and get this vision, but then going for a fight.
Arrow hit Levi. Adi tries to get out, bopped up by the Stranglethorn, and the Shockwave pulls in too. Levi actually jumps in, gets himself to safety. Archie's down, and Adi has actually lived throughout the fight.
Love the decision-making from Adi to just dive in the moment he spotted out Archie. He knew he had the support from his team. We were talking about that QSS earlier. He didn't even need it, as he's just about to lose his life, but he will be fine. Now, Gigabyte Marines will try and contest.
Oh, they go in. Stark should be able to die immediately. Levi knows he has to leave. There's no chance. Their Slave flashes into the pit to try to get the kills. Here's one on Giral. That's going to be the team coming up with 4. After Lyon get Baron.
Gigabyte Marines, they stop LYN from walking away with everything. They're able to get themselves 4 kills. Only White Lotus walks away with the Baron buff. And Gigabyte Marines, they're feeling confident.
Slay doing just that, giving the team confidence. You saw Levi turn from the fight. Slay's like, nah, no, this is a go-in button. And the team does. Baron might have gone over to Lyon here, but going to be a bit of damage put down onto these turrets. Nami's coming out. They still have Optimus to come up from the side. They may be able to route this turret. It'd be very dangerous to keep an extended fight here, though. Seems like they'll do the damage they can, get themselves out.
And this is the back and forth that we were waiting for. This is the expectations of these kind of games. Gigabyte Marines, they've now been able to pull themselves a gold lead as they take that tier 2 turret down. But Archie, he may have just overstayed.
That'll happen. Nice grasping root, though. Get some stop out. Oh, you gotta believe. You gotta believe in your team. There you go. He said, Adi, you knew I was gonna hit that.
Oh, good shot there from White Lotus. Now LYN, they're the ones with the numbers advantage. They've got the Baron.
Were you just talking about something?
I was talking about something. Lyon Gaming, they're looking for a tier 2 themselves.
And now there's the other back. I guess it's the 4th to the back, right? Back and forth. Now we have the 4th. What a game, exploding at 20 minutes. And the Baron lights the fuse here. It's going to be a pretty long fuse, as I do not believe the fights are going to end anytime soon. Optimus hasn't even backed. He's still hovering on the other side of the map. And I wonder if he will get out alive. This is going to be a party chase coming in from Lyon Gaming.
Ooh, they want to try and get the collapse down onto the wily Fox. But the question is, she still has her ultimate available. No flash. Will she be able to get out of this trap?
All right, already taking turret shots. There's one. Oh, look at those.
That's
gold. He's getting 2, 3. There's Spirit Rush. And that's going to be it. This is an execution.
Oh, White Lotus.
Wait, he's actually going to try to get out.
I don't know.
Oh, it's over. What a mission impossible by Optimus here. Tried to roll out, couldn't do it. Finally gets taken down. But look what's been happening on the map. Gigabyte Marines have been able to push all the way back up, free vision placement, and now they have a setup again.
But look again at Saya, because now the Gigabyte Marines, they've invested all this vision into the bottom half of the map. Saya, he's going to try and answer by getting some control over top, get a bit of more of these towers down in favor of Lyon Gaming. But this is the back and forth that we wanted to see. Remember that this whole action started back off at the Baron. That was about 2 or 3 minutes ago, and that's really where this game opened up and started to be a little bit more even, because Lyon, they were in full control for so long. They'd find so many effective picks, already punishing the mistakes coming out from the side of the Gigabyte Marines, but then they go for that Baron. They felt a lot more confident than they actually really should have, because there were a lot of low health bars. They were not ready for the answer from the Gigabyte Marines. They ended up losing a lot of members, and now they're looking to pick up their 3rd man and Drake of the game.
Quite definitive decision so far. The execution this time over to Gigabyte Marines. Levi is out. And that is going to be the confidence he has needed this game after being knocked down more than once. A tough early game, the steal, and then the Baron snuck by Lyon. Kind of all just gets reversed. Definitely
a nice consolation prize there for Levi. Definitely makes up for the lost smites that happened earlier on in the day. But now the map resets. Now we're at a time of peace and tranquility as both teams, they want to try and reset these waves. They want to spend the gold. But it doesn't sound fun, but it's the prime, it's the setup, it's getting ready. Because remember that Baron is the next objective. It's going to be spawning in quite a way, so we have time now. Both these teams, they're going to be working towards this 3rd item. Because remember, a lot of these 2-item spikes have now been completed for the side of Gigabyte Marines.
Top side Optimus, Summoner down and Flash. He has that exhaust up if things get a little too hairy in an engage, but he was waiting for White Lotus. Not overstepping his boundaries on that Ashe. 005, support Ashe in the bot lane. That's how it goes, right?
Not what we would expect from White Lotus. He'll make up for it later. His Flash is up right now, so he knows that he has that aggressive summoner spell available to him.
Exactly. He's the sleeper right now.
Yeah.
He's just waiting to get those items in, but Quicksilver Sash as well for him. Very, very reliant on out-positioning, being out-positioned, if you will. You're going to get thrown around by a Gragas Barrel, like we said. The Stranglethorns going to place you all over, and you want to be able to move in your spot ASAP.
Now, the win condition for Gigabyte Marines is keeping Optimus off onto a side lane. They know that right now you can't really send Saya to go and duel him. Geralt, he He has a fair amount of magic resistance, but even he is going to get pushed in the tower. There's no way he has the same sort of wave clear that Optimus has. So he's always going to be under pressure. And you have Stark on the other side of the map who can do exactly the same thing. So Gigabyte Marines, they can just keep this 1-through-1 setup if they want, and they just have to avoid the full-on team fights that LYN have been trying to force. So remember all this disengage the Gigabyte Marines have available to them. You have the Gragas, you have the LYN, you have the Zyra. So many tools to stop LYN from really setting up these fights and making them happen. So all Gigabyte Marines need to do is be patient, rely on their side lanes, and just keep pressure on all 3 lanes of the map, rather than trying to run it down mid like we saw earlier on.
Buddy system to clear out wards. Great for Archie. Feeling good to have that camaraderie as he goes around. Bot lane getting pushed in now by the Titanic of Giral. See, he's actually going to start roaming himself up, making sure he can clear out any wards that he sees right away. Grabbing any buffs he can. It looks like Gigabyte Marines is kind of relegated here towards the top side of the map. 1 minute on that Baron, so both teams will have eyes up here. Optimus working off the ball, calling over pressure every so often that has to be respected by LYN, has been slowing them down. And actually, that's the kind of thing that creates the scary scenario for you, is when your team that's pushing is when you find yourself stalling out without any results.
Exactly, especially when you really can't get the vision control that you want, because now that Sayer's been dragged up to the top half of the map, Gigabyte Marines, they're going to have full knowledge of his positioning, which means that, look at Levi, he's basically saying, hey, look at all this free vision I can get, woohoo! The Baron is now up to me and my buddies. We can look to try and set this one up relatively soon. And with it spawning in about 10 seconds, it's going to be the big point of contention for both these teams. Now for LYN, they want the full 5v5. They want to try and bait you into this little choke point where they can have their way with you. However, Gigabyte Marines, they have to play it slow, they have to be patient, and they have to rely on these side lanes in order to really get ahead over LYN Gaming.
Levi's purchase kind of tells the story you were just talking about. Backed for those 2 control wards. That means the priority towards the top side will have to be used. The control wards are to stay there. It's not one place and defend. They're getting ready to use that, have it taken down in the fight, and play again. So, like you said, the 5v5 is what LYN wants. Gigabyte's trying to find out how to get that without it being all 5.
Exactly that. Guinsoo's Rage Blade actually picked up for Slay. Not a conventional build path that you would normally see. Definitely something that seems unique to the Marines AD carry.
Interesting. Speed up, get a little like passive synergy, right? You kill a unit, you get attack speed. You hit something, you get attack speed. Is it
I mean, I don't think it's optimal. I don't think it's
of course.
But sure, like it's unique and fun, and it's different, and that's what we want with these games. We want a bit of variation. We'll have to see how well it does work out for him as the game progresses.
Just making sure it says Slay and not Genja. We'll be sure. Or maybe he becomes the new. The Slay builds will be now of 2017. We have to see. The fight has not happened yet. 2-0-3 seems confident in the build, especially with the amount of gold he's been getting to stay on top of how White Lotus can scale. They're going for this. Remember, this has been the push of Optimus on the top side. Having those minions up in the top.
They don't know.
Hold Adi back, hold the team's vision back, and now they get to sneak a Baron with 0 contest.
This is the best case scenario for the Gigabyte Marines. They didn't have full control of the river. That play would have been far too obvious. Instead, they just abused the fact that they knew where the vision was not for Lyon Gaming. They had already set up control in the Baron pit earlier on. They knew that if there was going to be a ward anywhere, it would be in that little bush in the river. So they took advantage by sliding all the way through in the top half of the Baron pit to take that objective down. And now the 1-3-1 of the Gigabyte Marines becomes so much harder to deal with.
Patiently waiting. Exactly what you expect a team who was able to go through their gauntlet from 4th, pretty much crush, have the patience to do everything. And even weather an early game where you're bot down a lot of CS in a very aggressive bot, and your jungler was having quite a bit of trouble. Now on top of the game, everybody's feeling like they're on cloud 9. They're gonna see where they can go with this one. 2nd tier in the top or bottom, maybe bottom with Baron down.
Now LYN starting to feel the pressure, a little bit worried. They were caught with the pants down a little bit there. We're not expecting that swift Baron take. So they have to be ready. They have to try and get control over their own half of the jungle, because that's what they can use to find these picks. Remember, you still have the Ashe arrow in your arsenal. There are actually only 1 QSS picked up onto Slay. So Optimus, he'll be the key target for those arrows to try and hit. A very swiftly LYN have already lost full control of their jungle, and they're likely going to lose a tower off the back of it too.
Yikes.
Yikes, it's true.
Slay is just crushing right now. The attack speed immediately skyrocketing every time he starts pulling the trigger and pulling arrows out of that quiver. Down the mid lane is going to be Optimus. This actually allows him to really utilize that exhaust if he's going to get hit by someone like Adi in a 1v1 situation. Jungler back, or I'm sorry, top back. Giral is back to help the team now. And the only thing that Gigabyte's going to have to worry about is bot lane respect. They have time to play, though.
They do. They have plenty of time. They are continuing to play the slow game. We had a bit of an exciting 20 to 25 minutes. Then the game slowed back down again. Both teams, they reassessed. They realized, okay, let's not run face first into each other. Let's reevaluate how we can win this game. And to be fair to Gigabyte Marines, they have been playing this beautifully. They haven't been grouping up as a 5-man unit. They haven't been giving all these free fights.
Yeah.
And they've been making it very difficult for LYN to really find the picks that they want, which is a big far cry to how the game really started, where Levi, he was being way too over-ambitious with his invades. He was in positions where he didn't quite have the vision that he needed. And it's just great to see within a game a team reevaluating their failures and then acting upon them.
And no, I was going to say, interestingly enough, a low-kill game. There's a Quicksilver sash flash, easy enough to say, as they get themselves back to safety here. But a safety where they feel good enough to push again, even after blowing summoners.
I mean, think of the resources that were invested. This is exactly what LYN wanted. This is why they were fighting so hard to maintain control over their own jungle, because if they get a pick, this Baron effectively becomes redundant. But if they don't find that pick, you're now leaving the rest of the map open. So Stark and Levi, they have all of the minions in the bottom lane. They have the Baron buff too.
Yeah.
It becomes another structure falling to the ever so quickly rising Gigabyte Marines.
Very interesting. Take time here to whittle away at the base. What kind of factor, or what variable, I should say is a better word, could you put into mid lane opposed to that Orianna? Something else that would have kind of synergized with this composition a little bit better for LYN.
I feel like that they needed something a little bit stronger to either match the Ahri off in the sideline. Like, they could have gone for an Echo. I've heard a lot of
right, he played that earlier.
Of him. Alternatively, like, I'm a big fan of Kassadin right now. Like, I think that Kassadin is pretty strong during the laning phase.
Okay.
It can really hurt him, and he does get pushed on the tower a fair amount. But Ahri isn't as oppressive that Kassadin wouldn't be able to get through it and turn into this late scaling menace. Right. Would be much better, especially with someone like a Shen too, is always a possibility.
Yeah, because we're seeing LYN just run back and forth, strung very thin between trying to control these lanes that are being pushed. That Optimus is having a field day, soaking up all this CS. Now a 25 CS lead for him. One of the first arrows we see hitting, it does get back onto Slay. Quicksilver Sash is up. So maybe now with that QSS, which is a Mercurial Scimitar, will be down if they can get another arrow quick enough.
Look at the pings from Gigabyte Marines. They're looking at this bottom wave. They know that top is actually pushing against them with the slow wave that is building in favor of Giral. And now LYN, they actually have priority over the mid lane, so they can either look to re-attain vision control over the river, or they can just look to try and run it down mid.
Routed through, they have quite a minion wave. One cannon there, top should actually be a turret takedown. If LYN can actually pressure this and then kind of play a yo-yo, they're actually going to move off. Maybe they'll just drop all together, play it safe, because they don't see what's actually coming through the red side of Gigabyte Marines jungle.
That was a smart play from Lyon Gaming. They saw the window and they leapt through it. They did not want to let that window close. And it's good because you don't want to try and react to the forces that Gigabyte Marines are making happen. Now they'll get themselves a structure as well, so they'll be able to close the gold gap a little bit.
I mean, what happens in the other situation is you guys get in a fight and Giral has to teleport in, right?
Exactly.
So you don't get anything. Turret stays up, mid stays up. So the final outer is cleared here. Definitely a little bit more room for LYN to get in. Put easier wards to go cross lanes. See if they can get some pressure in. The crowd is absolutely awesome at this event right now.
Ecstatic, very supportive of all the teams playing. But they want what I want, which is bloodshed. We want the teams to start killing each other. Fire the arrow. Let us see the violence. Like, we're at 4 items now, Riv. Like, that's a lot of damage.
I was going to say this earlier, but then we got into a fight where, again, nobody really died. For the amount of fighting we've seen, it's 5 to 6.
Yeah.
Like, there's not been that much action going on. I'm sorry, kills.
Whoa!
For the action there, if it's going to happen right now, like you said, 4 items, it's going to happen in a split second. These guys haven't fought each other in a while, so they're not aware of the instant power that's about to pop off.
Oh yeah, the arrow did end up hitting onto Archie. He wasn't even able to flash away. And think about this now, Baron spawning in 20 seconds, and is going to be up before Archie's even alive.
Real quick.
And now we get the replay. Ooh, he was trying to clear vision alone, Riv. The classic, he doesn't have his buddy there ready. And there's no Shen ultimate on his team. He can't do anything about it.
I feel for him. Everybody does it. Sometimes you need that buddy, though. Levi has been with him. We saw a bit of an invade there as they were on the bot side of the map. But like you said, things have to be done as a group. Elder for Baron is going to be the trade. They are fine with it. And I think it's going to work here for Lyon because they actually haven't had a good time pushing. I think Elder would actually get them pushed in. So that was a good trade, I believe.
I feel that overall, Baron is always a stronger objective to get over the Elder anyway, simply because not only does it last longer, it lasts a full minute longer, but it also just helps you siege, which is something that the Elder really does not quite have the same impact with. And now with Lyon having all this control around the map, having taken all of these outer towers down, with only one remaining in the bottom lane, it just better suits their composition because they can really maximize the use of this Shen. Start a slow push up in the top lane, group up as 4 in the mid, send that ninja down into the bottom lane, and then just start working your way into the base of the Gigabyte Marines. But don't fight him, because that Elder Dragon can be nasty.
The Elder Dragon that's going to come up and bite you twice. GA on Stark and Levi. So that'll be difficult. You got to go through more than one kill. And you can only Quicksilver Sash once. So a lot of these things are kind of compounding on each other to just become harder for the guys that are building defense on the side of Lyon. Looks like Gigabyte Marines to set up. Slay. They cast the bait out. Nobody takes it. They just join them to farm out the minions.
Still no QSS for Optimus. I mean, I can understand it on an Ahri. However, it is relying on his own individual prowess to not get hit by that arrow. But still, he has completed a lot of the damaging items. He's also completed his death cap now as well. So the assassination power of this Ahri is very, very potent. Even if he misses the charm, he has his ulti, he still has the Q. So he still has a lot of that threat that White Lotus always has to be mindful of. And he still has his flash. I'm surprised. I think this is the longest I've ever seen White Lotus with an active flash. Like,
both of these guys are ready to flash forward. We saw Slay do it earlier into the Baron pit.
Oh, yeah.
And White Lotus ready to do it as it is up. 0 and 6 for him. The flash forward. Resonating strike into Sonic. I don't think they're going to get the kill here. No, they finally go in on him. There is the ultimate from Giral. Stays alive. They pull the ultimate out of Levi and Optimus. And here's the tidal wave back. Is the team ready to rush? Down mid lane goes White Lotus to try and prep the team for mid. He is backed and met by Stark, but is it quick enough? Yes, it is. And with another pressure play, nobody goes down with more action.
Just a couple of ultimates ended up being used. A flash, you're here and there, traded. So nothing really gained. And in all seriousness, Lyon, they really have not gained a huge amount off the back of this Baron buff, but they still have a minute of it left, and the Elder Dragon has now ran out. This is the big window that Lyon need to try and push. This is the avenue with which they can try and close out this game, but they are afraid as Stark goes in.
Double ulti, Genthix Saya back. Looks like Adi can just get over the wall. Chain of Corruption to him, arrow onto Slay, and that's Giral into the back. A 4v1 for Giral. Stranglethorn goes down. That's going to pop the rest of the team of Lyon up, and Giral's in a bad spot. 3-man shockwave coming in from Saya. Nobody's able to capitalize on anything, as the lowest members are the ones to start peeling out, which are the ones that can do the killing blow.
No one died, Riv! Why is no one dying? That was such a good shockwave from Saya. All the choke points, all the key targets were exactly where he needed them to be. But they just could not land the decisive blow. Giral's been so long, tanking up so much damage.
Stark was all in. He's like, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, like, they were ready, right? You can see such a great ultimate coming out from Stark, knocking the members in, but there's just no follow-up. The arrow lands on the Slay, and you think this is great. But now just look, it's a battle of the front lines, right? Lyon can't get through Stark. Gigabyte Marines can't get through Giral, and then you get this fantastic shockwave onto multiple members. White Lotus, dude, you still have your flash up. Go in, like, that's what we expect from you. Instead, he holds back, he restrains himself. He doesn't go for the hero play. And Lyon Gaming, they don't end up in any kills, but neither do the Gigabyte Marine.
That was something I was actually just going to mention last time we kind of saw Optimus. As he did a bit of a hero play earlier when he went off by himself, but as you said, he has these massive items. He could pop Genthix. He could pop White Lotus. Now, they haven't left each other but they also aren't like edging and looking for that opening just every so often. It's very scary. We're asking them for kind of the 110% moments here, but these are the things you want to see from these guys. Those hero plays, making the name for themselves. So far, this has been neck and neck, and we're looking for that person to explode.
Another very long game for Lyon Gaming. We're starting to see, like, domestically, remember that this is a team that dominated. These guys only played a single game, so now that they're being challenged, now that they don't have that early snowball, they're being forced into these late game scenarios where they don't have the same amount of experience.
Big old belly right out front.
And so they do some crazy stuff. They just throw the arrows out, they hope for the best. It's a bit of a zoning arrow, basically saying, hey, this is our tower now. You may not come near, but still. The game now slows down. We start to reset. We're looking again at like the Baron and the Elder Dragon, and we're now completing the full 6 items. The full charade is here. Parade, rather.
But yeah, it is a parade. See where they take that. Which lane will it go down? Might be down mid. A push up top from Optimus. He's been able to keep that wave semi-primed and prepped throughout the game. We have 1:40 left on Baron. GA is pretty much just coming up right now. Zanya's finally to be finished up on. Optimus feels like that's a good final item for himself. Same thing though for Seiya here. Everybody's getting their extra life in towards the end of the game, if you will, in our full builds.
But still, some control wards from the top and the bottom lane. The good guys of the team, making sure that there's always some vision.
That's a great point. There's so many times in the NALCS and other leagues where you just see such a late game where people have recipe'd everything together, and where's your vision?
Exactly.
Where's your vision?
It really does start to fall off, and Lyon, as well as Gigabyte Marines, they're demonstrating like, yeah, you know what, I'm tanky enough. And as I say that, look at Gerard, look at what he did. He gets rid of the control ward, and then he goes and gets his 6th item, just as we were praising him, really.
That's all right. He knows what he needs to do. He'll go back and forth, right? Sell it. Buy back a control ward.
Maybe he can be the ward.
That return on investment. There it is. Moving sentry. That's what Shen is. Get around. Help your team when they need it. Yeah. It's like a light bright. It's like they just strung up a bunch of lights straight through the jungle. All those red wards. Nicely placed. I like it. Connect the dots. One mid went down. It broke. It's over. 45 minutes on this one, as these teams are actually taking each other quite long. As we said earlier, they're warmed up. We might expect these plays to kind of result in some kills, which then the kills lead to the turrets. Here they've been whittling each other down, and only a kill here, a kill there.
TP flank.
And the kills aren't on the best of people. See 6 assists onto White Lotus. Stark again. A 4v1 situation now. Tidal wave on the full team of Gigabyte Marines.
Ooh.
Shockwave miss. How will it end up? Seiya goes right in the middle and he goes down. White Lotus drops immediately. 64 seconds on the clock for these death timers. Genthix is going to be next. And Stark, starting off the second fight in the last 5 minutes, is the one that clicks for Gigabyte Marines.
Unbelievable that this whole game is likely going to be decided on a fight that just happened instantly. Stark, he gets himself the teleport, he makes the play happen, and now with 3 members dead, Gigabyte Marines, they're looking to go 2-0 in the group.
Straight down the mid lane like a freight train, 45 minutes in, Gigabyte Marines on the back of Stark's engage are looking for the Nexus turrets. 3 members still dead. It's Adi and Giro. Not the biggest damage to get these guys out of your base, but they're going to do their damnedest as the tanks and bit of damage dealers that they are. The next Nexus turret there for Gigabyte Marines. Like you said, Vedius looking to go 2-0 here on the second day of play-ins. Will they be able to do it? They're looking for the kills. Pad a few stats, get a few more. Quicksilver yourself out, Adi. But Solace on the fountain doesn't save the Nexus. And Gigabyte Marines come up with a victory.
It was so close for so long. And then that one pivotal shockwave doesn't hit anybody. The engage from the Gigabyte Marines initially looked haphazard because we saw such a great tidal wave, completely dissuading Gigabyte Marines from getting a successful follow-up. But then they get themselves the turnaround. It just all happened so fast. I didn't even catch how White Lotus even ended up losing his life in that final fight. And it just, with both Seiya and White Lotus gone, that's it. The fight is over. Like, that late into the game, your 2 primary damage dealers, there's no way you're coming back from that.
I looked at Stark. I went where his cask went, and then somehow Seiya was in the fight right next to White Lotus on the backside. And I was like, that's bad. Red health bars disappear. That was instant. We were just mentioning who's going to make that play? We're at this many items, and you guys have a team that you built to kind of disengage, which has better engage now. You got to use it at some point.
I mean, they did it very effectively as well. The fact that Stark was able to find that TP, they finally say to the rest of the team, you know what, guys, let's just do it. Let's go. Let's go for the fight. Look, forget Baron, forget Elder Dragon. We're going to win this fight, and they do it in such style as well.
We see these coming through the games. The one thing I continue to think about is the consistency of how they go in, how they plan their attacks, and how much that will be attacked by other teams as they make it through the play-ins. So these teams definitely have a lot to think about as they continue to get their wins and continue to get their losses. To get their thoughts on that win, however, send it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Riv. We had a decent, or rather we have a decent opportunity now to look at these teams in a very different way, through a different lens, because everything seemed to slow down here in Game 4 as compared to the way that this entire tournament, both Group A and Group B, had been going up until this point.
I think this is the first time you can really look at these teams and just say they were playing scared. And I don't know what changed between like games 1 that these guys played to this game. Maybe they like had a moment to relax and they had trouble getting their energy back up to where it was at the start of the day, but they definitely came out totally flat. It didn't feel like they wanted to force anything. They were going for objectives as passively as they could, just hoping the other team wouldn't show up. And when they did, it was just smite steals, or if someone got caught out of position, you would punish a mistake, but no one was looking to actually engage.
Yeah, there was a lot of focus on actually stopping teleports as well, so top laners weren't involved. There was a Shen on one team with an Ashe. They weren't really forcing these fights or engaging these things, and I do just want to echo that. I feel like it's being scared, but it's also not knowing when they should be aggressive. They were just defaulting to scared.
Right, and that's the thing, because both of these teams here are winning teams so far in the day. So you would think, if anything, they enter with more confidence, with more willingness to maybe make plays and go for those game-winning moments. And instead, both playing maybe with their lead very cautiously, afraid to give it up to anyone else in the group.
Right, you can say maybe Gigabyte Marines are being a little bit more aggressive early on. We had those early invades coming in for Levi. He gets caught out once, gets caught out with the Dragon, and then from there, you can say, okay, maybe Gigabytes will slow down. But then there was no reason for Lyon to keep playing that scared over the course of the game. There were times where they had TP advantage, or they had a flash down on the Zyra, and they don't go for a repeat force play. They just sat back and were happy to grind them out, but they never actually did anything to get enough of an advantage.
I mean, we were kind of, counting Ashe arrows, and just within the first, maybe 15 to 20 minutes of Game 1 today, Ashe arrows were flying on cooldown. This time around, a much more tempered in their willingness, rather, to look for those picks. But let's go ahead and dive into our first replay, which comes 22.5 minutes into the game, which is about that halfway point. 4 members going down here for Lyon after the Baron.
Right, they're able to finally pick Archie. They grab the Baron, but they all get really low over the course of doing this. It was not well coordinated either, where you saw Audi jumping in and out at low health. Eventually, they all get caught in the pit, able to get cleaned up there by the side of the Gigabyte Marines, and it just leads to a bigger stall out. Someone finally picks up a big neutral objective, but then almost no one's alive to use it.
And I'll steal the word coordination from you there, because the engage in that fight was a Kha'Zix just going ham. Like, he just jumps in and everybody, and there was no Ashe arrow used to actually engage that one. Like, it's just the Kha'Zix, and it works because he has a team to protect him. But that's also, he literally does the same thing to the Baron buff itself, which is why he dies at the end of that.
Yeah, and we talk about this is why we like shield comps sometimes for some teams that lack that coordination. You see a Kha'Zix engage a fight just by jumping in. Well, you get an Ori shield, a Shen shield, a Nami heal to keep you up over the course of that fight, which is how they won that fight where they get the first kill, but they did not coordinate well after that.
It's so peculiar, though, because both of these teams are set up quite well to start fights if they so choose, right? When you look at both rosters of champions, Lee Sin, Gragas, Varus, Ahri, all 4 of them have a way to start a fight, whether it's a single pick or a full-on team fight engage. On the flip side, you've got Ashe, Shen, even a Nami wave and an Orianna ball with a Kha'Zix jumping in. There are ways, there are tools to start fights, and yet this was one of our longest games of the tournament, the play-in stage so far.
It's one of those situations where the flash is up on the AD carry, and you don't want to overcommit onto him, so you don't actually go to start a fight, and then because you're not starting fights, the flash is always up, at least this chicken or the egg kind of situation where because you're playing a little bit scared and you don't think you're that engaged going to work, you keep waiting for the perfect one over and over, and it just never shows up because you're not going to find the perfect engage. Just pull the trigger once, get the flash out most likely, and then look for another one.
And then, of course, what this does mean, Rusty, is that you eventually, stall out the game to a point where a single team fight decides it all, and that's what happens 45 minutes into the game. We have the game winner here here. We'll take a look in just a moment. But overall, it's like, is this really what teams want? To get to that point where you're flipping a coin in the late game for the 50-50 or possibly winning a big team fight?
It's not where you exactly want to be, but for what it's worth, the Gigabyte Marines, when they are there, excel in these situations, right? A really good teleport from Star, coupled with individual plays from the mid laner, the jungler of this team. And that's exactly where you want the carries to be. But in future, if you are looking at this, you're taking a step back and saying, well, 45 minutes could have been 20 minutes when we could have made the exact same plays. Could have been 10 minutes if we collapsed to protect Levi a little bit better to accelerate this game more so.
But now let's talk about where the group stands as a whole, right? 4 games into the day, Gigabyte Marines, I mean, let's be honest, that's not necessarily who we thought was going to be leading this group, and yet they have impressed so far today.
Right, I mean, coming in, we heard some grumblings about teams who have been scrimming over there had been saying they might be one of the weakest teams in the group, and now they're the team in the lead, and I think you can kind of say that this is why the play-in stage is so fun, is because you have no idea what's going to happen. Day starts with a ton of crazy picks. We fall back into standard champ pools, this time getting a slower game, but just even in the previous game, it was another 2 standard team comps going at it, but higher action.
And of course, the day's not over just yet. So now I'll return to you, Rusty, with Lyon Gaming here. All right, they played scared, but outside of playing scared, what do we want to see them, do in order to return to form? Because I think a lot of people were looking at them as possibly the front runner for getting out of the group.
I think the first thing that we could look at, and we said this even after their victory, is to work around White Lotus as a carry and to actually change up the style of play that they're currently working with to empower him, not just have him on the Ashe. He's already shown in this tournament, if you set him up for success, he will actually be the person to go forwards, be aggressive and carry. He won against a Blitzcrank. Like, his life was to die, but he'd still take 2 people minimum with him. Like, he's going off.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we talked about how Gerald doesn't TP in that much. Put him back on a carry again. Like, I didn't love his Camille performance, but at least if you're going to get into this stall-out situation, at least it then favors you instead of just being tank versus tank, doing nothing versus each other.
Yeah.
At least if you have the split-pushing threat, if you have something that's going to take over the game as it stalls out, I would prefer to see that.
All right, it's almost made more peculiar that they chose a champion that's got 2 teleports for the.
I can ignore 2 ices hard.
For the player that doesn't love to teleport, I mean, it's a good point, right? If you set up that 4-1 split where you have an entire disengage and supporty type group of 4 for that ADC, and then just a hard winning top lane, it could be the recipe for success for Lyon Gaming. We're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll see if Lyon Gaming can bounce back versus Azorus Gaming. It's the 2017 MSI play-ins. Coming right back.